I paid for it with cash. Actually, 35 with that bill. Fucking cheap. I don't want to sit there and waste my fucking time. I wanted that funky to back up and running. Ooh, fuck. Go, 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 go. Okay. Let's get some heat into this truck.
being recorded.
Brandon, I called they called a Freightliner, and guess how much they told me for the entire kit for that bunk heater? Roughly $30. That's all I wanted to say to you, but I'm on my way. I'm on my way towards Tulsa, Oklahoma. But yeah, freaking that's cheap. But yeah, I'll find a Freightliner and I'll get over there and I'll just pay cash, whatever, and you guys reimburse me if that's what you guys can do. Okay, if you want to switch me to him, I'll talk to him. Yeah, have him call me back. Alright, thanks, bye. Bill, I haven't landscape mode, so I can't see the comments on the phone I'm recording on. So I have to switch to my other phone to see the comments, which is strange, but okay. Yeah, I'm heading to Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's no loads in my area, so yeah. And my bunk here is not working, so called one of the Freightliners. And they said it's roughly give or take $30 for the whole kit to fix the bunk heater part, which is cheap. Because that's including the glow plug, the screen for it, and the little wrench. And that's all I really need from them. And then I can do the rest of the repairs myself. Because I'd have to get in there with a little pick and open up the breather hole if it's clogged at all. And then replace the glow plug, replace the screen. It's a wire mesh type screen, but still. Replace both of those, put it all back together, and bunk heater should fire up. Because what it's doing is it's saying flame out, which means it's lost flame. So, it should be a simple fix. I've looked it up on YouTube as far as like the how-to on how to get the bunk heater fired back up. It looks pretty straightforward. So, all you have to do is take that big metal cage off, no big deal. Then there's a little ring on the front of the bunk heater for the air inlet. You unscrew that, pop that off. Then you have two clips that lift up to take the top off the bunk heater. And then you have a set screw on top of the part of the brains or whatever. You take that off, take off and disconnect the glow plug wire. Unscrew the glow plug, replace the screen, put in a new screen, new glow plug, reconnect it, put the set screw back in, and just the exact opposite of everything I just did. So fixing that bunk heater should be no problem. But I definitely have to open up that breather hole so the bunk heater can reset itself. And like I said, called Freightliner, like I said, roughly give or take $30, which is cheap. I thought they were going to quote me something like $100 or so, or whatever for the entire kit. Nope, about roughly $30. That's cheap. And at that point, I have heat in my truck again, so I can enjoy the freaking warmth during the night when it's freezing. Right now my bunk heater's not working at all. So I have to get under several blankets just to stay warm while I sleep at night. And that's not fun. Sleeping in a cold truck. It's miserable. I don't know the odds of that. But, like I said, I've done enough homework to know what to do to fix the said issue. So, no big deal. Easily fixed. And I've got way more than enough tools to fix that bunk heater. Easily way more than enough. I'll just be happy as hell basically having to keep the truck again for the night. Like I said, been suffering here lately, just using blankets to keep warm at night. It sucks, but what are you gonna do? What sucks is this phone being in landscape mode, it doesn't show comments. As much as that sucks. So I have to use another phone to read comments. So one of those three people that are in the room are me. Really two people in here. sure if I want to like that viewing angle, as phone's basically mounted to the windshield, and phone can get really warm if I turn on the defrost for the windshield. So the phone can end up overheating. So that might be a bad idea. I might have to reposition the phone. Damn it. Fuck. Right now, I'm heading to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Going here, going to settings, go to Bluetooth, and disconnect. I just got a text message. North Carolina. Huh? I'm going to North Carolina to pick it up, and it's going to Wisconsin. What the fuck? Let's see. Really? How far am I from North Carolina? What the fuck? I got all the company. This can't be right. Answer the phone. Brand. Okay. That can't be right. I'm actually confused on something here. That can't be right. I'm in Oklahoma. They want me to go to North Carolina to pick up a load. That's a lot of deadhead miles. Bill, I want to call the company to see if they're correct on this. Because I am seriously confused. They want me to run clean across the country to pick up a load. That makes no fucking sense. Okay, I am genuinely confused on the load information. Somebody sent me a load saying it's going, basically I'm picking up in North Carolina going to Wisconsin, and that's over 1,000 miles away just to pick up a load. It says phone number 515-608-8908. Yeah. You must have sent it to me by mistake. You must have. Okay, so what? Okay, I'll go ahead and delete it. Bye. Problem solved. Told me to disregard it, so I deleted it. That is a shit ton of deadhead miles. Nope. this. Now it's going to switch to that. Now I'm going to go to YouTube, close this video, and where the hell is it?
You're a head clerk. That's it.
One master's degree, two radically different jobs, and a courtroom that's about to burn with raw family drama. Today's case is certainly one for the books.
I just found out my wife just left her corporate job for a cashier job. I don't know why. I just it's like she wanted to have the payments that she's doing.
Payments of what?
Child support, ma'am.
Okay.
We have a child together that we had in our marriage. It's like, and all of a sudden I just found out just recently that she left her corporate job to what? A couple of dollars paying job. Couldn't do this to us.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, do not address her. Address me.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, obviously she can't help your situation. That's why you're here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so continue.
I don't know, it's just like, when I found out, it's like, I was just shocked. I didn't know, like, how else to express it, but...
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so in this video, we are taking a look at the all-new Samsung Galaxy Tab A9, and I'm kind of happy. Let's go ahead and talk about it. First things first, some of you may be familiar with this already, but those of you who are not familiar with what this tablet is or what it represents, this is the successor to the Samsung Galaxy Tab A7 Lite. So we're just going to call this the regular Samsung Galaxy Tab A9, and as you can notice just by the size there, this is targeted at a very specific group of people. It's not meant to be the best tablet out there. It's meant to be a budget tablet, a very portable tablet, that is. Now, I did mention in my introduction that I am happy because the performance here is able to match that of a flagship device. I was actually surprised to see how snappy this tablet gets. You know, when navigating the internet, you know, flying through some of the work that you do, some of the light work that you're doing. And it may be that I already wasn't expecting much based off of my experience using the Tab A7 Lite, the predecessor to this tablet. If you remember, if you've been watching the channel for a while, then you probably know that I was not happy with the performance of the Tab A7 Lite. Sure, I still said at the end of that video that if you absolutely needed to get that tablet, you know, go ahead and grab it, just because maybe of the size and maybe how portable it was. But in terms of user experience, I did not like it. It lagged way too much to my tasting, and it would freeze and it would crash. I was not a fan of it. So when I picked up this guy, I figured, you know, this is the successor to that one. I was kind of had great performance, but it, in a very positive way, it's fairly snappy. It actually moves pretty well. The display is pretty bright. Again, despite being a budget tablet. Remember, this is not set to be a mid-range tablet or flagship tablet. So the expectation is not for this to be, you know, beyond the realm of entry-level tablets. But anyways, the physical aspect of the tablet, you will notice that it follows design that is familiar. You do have your power button rocker. You have a dual speaker setup here, as you can see. The tablet itself is 8.7 inches, so to me it's almost like a big phone. In fact, there are people who go for the smaller line here, whether it be the A7 Lite or the A9 here, just so that they can use it as a secondary phone, and they will make sure that they go for the 4G model. What I have here is actually an international model, not available in the US. I'm not sure when Samsung is going to drop this in the US, or if it's even going to drop this in the US, but as of the shooting of this video, this tablet is only available in some regional, in some markets. But anyway, so you have a USB Type-C port at the bottom here, along with a headphone jack. That's always good to see there. And of course, on the left-hand side here, you have a slot here for the micro SD card, and with that, you will be able to expand the internal storage of your tablet at up to 1 terabyte. By the way, base storage, which is what I have here, is the base model, is 64 gigs, and that comes with 4 gigs of RAM. You could go for the next config, which will grant you 128 gigs of internal storage, along with 8 gigs of RAM. So you'll be able to do a little bit more and have things run in the background with that one. But in either case, you are able to expand the storage at up to 1 terabyte. On the back here, we have an 8 megapixel camera. Again, this is the
Turning down the audio so I can see who's in here, if commented. They left. Whatever.
pretty decent when it comes down to, scanning documents and things like that. You'll be fine. And on the front facing camera here, it's a 2 megapixel camera. It's not great, but you could definitely video call on this. But then again, don't expect this to be, top level. As I mentioned, display 8.7 inches. You can watch Netflix here, 1080p. That is actually pretty nice. Pitch quality is excellent. Now, I'm not saying that it's the best out there, but for what it is, something that you're paying, I believe I paid $139 for this. It's pretty good. I like it. I really do like it. And to those of you who are looking for something that is portable, this probably would be it. I know one of the biggest disappointments to a lot of us actually, because I would love to see that. One of the biggest disappointments that we've seen with Samsung is that they still have yet to drop a small tablet that can compete with the iPad mini. Something that is small but yet powerful. We've seen the Active, the S3 Active, I believe that is, right? That one is fairly powerful, but that is something to use in rough terrains and things like that. But in terms of a mainstream tablet, let's say a mainstream mini flagship tablet that can compete against the iPad mini, we haven't seen one like that, and I would love to see that. But anyways, I digress. This would be your budget tablet. Good for those of you who are on the go, who are on the bus, metro, whatever. You just need something that is very portable. You can do things rather quickly. This would be the one to go. You will notice that as I'm reviewing this compared to the way I reviewed the A7 Lite, I'm smiling a little bit more. And that is simply because I feel you can do a lot more with this tablet compared to the predecessor. Anyways, navigating the internet is pretty decent here. So light work, you have no issues. Mid-level work, even you have no issues. But if you go heavy, I can guarantee you that you will encounter some lag. Right? You can do some level of multitasking, split the screen in half, and then have a floating window and kind of play with that. That worked well as well. When I was testing it out, you may get a little bit of a delay as you're setting that up, but once it gets that going, it actually works pretty well. I was surprised to see that. When it comes down to gaming, Asphalt Online played pretty well here, along with the Chase. I know many of you like when I played that particular game, the Chase. Now, I did notice that when it comes down to downloading heavy games,
Let's see what else is playing.
Welcome back, Motorheads. What do you have car finds on Facebook Marketplace? First, got 2002 Pontiac Aztek for $22,500. Well, I was going to ask what's going on here, but as you can see, he's already said it. Short bus. This fella definitely rode the damn short bus. What in the absolute hell are you thinking with this damn Pontiac Aztec thinking it is worth $22,500? I don't care how much bullshit you put on this damn thing, how much lipstick you put on a pig. This Pontiac Aztec is nowhere near $22,500.
No, it's not.
Next got 1967 Ford Mustang for $10,000.
Nope.
God, you know, there really has to be some sort of hotline invented for every time a redneck thinks that they need to go ahead and put a sports car on a four-wheel drive road. They need to be able to call this crisis center and be talked out of these dumb-ass ideas. Why would you use this Ford Mustang? Here we have a metal body on VW frame for $3,000. Well, on this episode of Arts and Crafts with Crackhead Bob, Crackhead Bob's been pretty busy in a metal fabrication shop. Decided to elect to build this thing here. Nobody knows exactly what the hell this is. Hell, the guy who built it doesn't even know what the hell it is. They're just calling this the metal body on VW frame. Either which way, no way in hell $3,000.
Nope.
Next got 1983 Monte Carlo for $2,000. Oh, look now, Sawzall Willie done struck again. This time he decided to cut apart a Monte Carlo. He found himself a rusty damn Sawzall blade and went to town. This poor damn car, I swear to God, you know, some people should just not be allowed to even function in society. They should not be allowed to buy things that are sharp. They shouldn't even be allowed in the tools section. This person here is definitely one of them people. Next got 1976 Chevrolet Monte Carlo for $4,500.
What's wrong with it? Let's see.
I don't know which one's worse. The previous Monte Carlo that they completely cut the top off of, or actually just go ahead and put the big chop on a damn Monte Carlo. And this body style Monte Carlo, it had enough ugly features working for it already. It didn't need any help from you. But $4,500? No. Just no. Yo, please just go back to licking glass and stay out of the garage. Next got 1982 Oldsmobile for $5,800.
Just no.
What in the southbound chocolate pickle dropping do we got going on with this damn Oldsmobile here? $5,800? Why? Because you put Lambo doors on it?
No.
Them doors did not make a major improvement on this car. I believe you actually took an ugly Oldsmobile and made it even uglier. You think you get $5,800? Absolutely not. Next got 1975 Lincoln for $11,500.
No.
Oh my God, that is freaking disgusting. That is absolutely, yuck. Nasty. No. Looks like a combination of frog crap and puke green. This is just absolutely revolting looking. At $11,500? Look, I understand you're trying to make a lowrider out of this, but you need to fire the painter. If you did this yourself, you need to be damn ashamed of yourself. That's not good. Not good at all. Next got 1980 Cadillac for $2,000. Really? This is the type of car that you pass in public, and you will literally hear carnival music. You will absolutely think you took a trip to a circus, and not a good circus. Next got 2002 Ford Econoline van for $85,000.
No. Already.
Holy Neapolitan ice cream hell! What do we got going on here for $85,000? Did a fat man with a fiend for ice cream pick the Now I want ice cream.
Yeah.
$85,000 is a little damn steep to be looking like a damn carton of ice cream, but that's like a pretty cool rig other than that. Next got 1957 Chevrolet for $22,500. Why?
Seriously.
What in the F are we even looking at here? I mean, seriously, did you have a fart watch in your brain and block good thoughts and good ideas? Because obviously it must have, because this is a shit idea, and this is dumb. This is absolutely dumb. and 22.5. I swear to God, if somebody gives you 22.5, they need to admit it right along beside you. Next guy's another 1957 Chevrolet, but this one here is $60,000.
Nope. Just no.
Upper little guy. Now you see this guy here. This guy here would look at the other 57 from the previous clip and think, God, that's a damn steal. That's an absolute great price. Why is nobody else jumping on that? For the same reason they're not jumping on yours for $60,000. We're not stupid. You want $60,000 for half a damn car. The other one, he's running 22.5 for, I don't even know what the hell that was. Which version of an El Camino or something. But either which way, you two might be related or your treaty goes straight up, one or the other. Next got 1967 Volkswagen Beetle listed for free. Calm down, everyone. You know damn well it's not free. So don't be coming in with a dumb question of where it's at for free. Anyway, this is a WTF, but this is not a WTF in a bad way. I'm absolutely kind of digging the hell out of this thing.
It's actually not bad looking.
About that. I think it's a pretty cool looking little rendition of an old Woody. What do you guys think of this? Well, that's all I got for you today. If you like today's video, smash that like button,
Not great,
consider
but it's not bad
subscribing.
looking.
See you guys in the next one.
Pawn shop workers of Reddit, what is the dumbest thing a customer has brought in thinking they were gonna strike it rich? Oh, it's my time to shine. I'm a store manager at one of the busiest pawn shops in Northern California. And because of that, I have the high volume of customers that most don't. So that means lots of stories. One, a guy brought in a stone painted green, claiming it was ancient gold, and that after eons it had developed a patina. I tried to explain to him that all gold is ancient gold, made in something as intense as dead star colliding, but he insisted it was gold. After about 30 minutes of discussion, he forced me to test it. When I showed him it wasn't gold, he told me he spent $4K buying it off some guy. 2, a guy brought in a bag of used syringes and wanted to trade it for a TV. I did not oblige. 3, a guy brought in a piece of safety glass from a windshield and claimed it was a diamond, even when I assured him it wasn't. 4, someone brought in a clump of bent and slightly melted forks and spoons, claiming it was a meteorite fallen from the ISS trash dump shot into space. 5, someone brought in a costume cape claiming it was the real invisibility cloak from Harry Potter. With further questioning, he didn't think it was a prop from the movie, but the actual magical cape. 6, as a watch guy, this is my favorite, someone brought in a Rolex watch claiming their father needed it. When I showed her that it actually said Rolflex and Skiss Made, she claimed that those were misprints and meant it was worth more because of it. After I opened the watch to show her the movement, I saw that there was no movement at all, but just a weight in the back. 7, a couple came in with an old 1990 30 inches TV, claiming that it was antique, and refused to leave the store until we gave them $800 for it. We showed the selling online for literally a couple of dollars, but they refused. and said they know what they had. 8, not in line with crazy item, but a good story. A couple used to come in once a week and pawn stuff. Well, apparently, one day the wife decided she was done with him as a husband. Snuck up behind him in the store, sprayed him in the face with pepper spray, stole his car keys and his wallet, ran out of the store, and stole his car. 9, someone came in with an obviously recently used dialysis machine. Still had blood sprayed on it like they ripped it away while it was in use, I kid, and tried to sell it for thousands of dollars. We passed. Story 2. I didn't work at a pawn shop, but a secondhand movie, music, video game, comic, toy store in KC called Vintage Stock. Games. Everyone knows this one. People would buy a game at GameStop and come in a couple of weeks later and expect us to give them $40 cash or $55 in trade in for a $60 that tanked. Or people would try and sell us a 5-year-old Madden game and be insulted at the $25 trade, and we offered for a game we knew was going to sit on our shelf. My favorite was the woman who bought 10 copies of F7 Greatest Hits and thought we would pay $100 bucks for each one. Sure, if you brought in Suikoden Detective or Lunar, we might offer you a nice chunk of change, but if it got a Greatest Hits release, not so much. Comics and toys. Every father regretted not keeping his Action Comics 1, and every mother lamented not having the original Barbie. But in the late 80s and 90s, they started mass-producing that crap. 15-year-old comics and toys have almost no value. Death of Superman and your 100 Beanie Babies are not worth our time. Sports paraphernalia. Unless you can prove Joe Montana signed that football or George Brett signed that card, we can't take it, at least for what you were asking. The Brett Favre rookie card is neat, but why did you use it as a coaster for your coffee mug? A signed hockey stick. GDFO, this is Kansas City. We don't know what a hockey stick looks like. The movies and music. In the early to mid-2000s, when Netflix mailed you movies and Steam didn't exist, all media was physical or downloaded off Kazaa. That didn't mean we would give you $5 for every DVD and $3 for every CD. Nobody wants to buy Yanni's Greatest Hits, and we already have 16 copies of Spider-Man 2. Garage sale moms would come in with trash bags full of random crap and expect to make a living off of it. We would sort through so much crap over the summer because a bored stay-at-home mom thought giving the grandma down the block a check for $20 bucks for every DVD at her sale would net her hundreds of dollars. The big secret, that shouldn't be a secret, is that second-hand stores are still in it to make a profit. If the Beckett Guide says your card is worth 30 bucks, we are not going to give you 30 bucks. If we can sell your crappy scratched porn CD for $5, we are going to give you $1.50 cash and $3 trade-in if we are feeling very, very generous. That Star Wars figure might be worth $500 bucks and you only want $300. But if it's going to sit in a display case for a decade, we won't buy it. We want to make money. And if there is no demand, we will lowball you enough that hopefully you leave. Since I left, I heard they went to a standard buy or trade value. But when I worked there, it was up to the manager. And the manager at the time kind of let the people who knew about the product determine the price. Yes, I massively undercut the obvious medhead woman who somehow found a copy of Risk for the PS1. Yes, I would buy a bulk bag of Magic cards because I knew that if we started to price them, they would discover the few ones that are actually worth something. But 95% of the time, people that get it about what we were offering sold us crap that's still sitting in a clearance bin. Story 3, had a guy try get $100 for 2 wheat pennies and 2 buffalo nickels, 4-legged. About 5 years ago, I had a guy call the store and ask if we took GPSs. I told him we did. Then he asked the address to the store. I told him. Then he asked me how to get there. Story 4. A kid from my school had a letter signed by Abraham Lincoln. He brought it to show and tell one day, and we were all super impressed. In grade 12, he stole it from his dad and went to pawn it. He bragged about how he was going to be rich. It turns out his grandfather forged the letter and gave it to his dad as a gift. Story 5. There was a buy and sell by my house that would give you $5 for any game and sell every game for 10. I used to go in and check prices on all games. And if I would make more than 10 from GameStop, I would buy the game, go to GameStop and sell it, and then buy all the crappy games GameStop had that were less than $5 and take it back to the buy and sell to make more money. I was an addict at the time, so that was my job when I wasn't working at the restaurant. Story 6. Comic book shop employee. Every single seller has a totally mint collection and a first appearance of Superman or Batman. There have been literally hundreds of Batman Supermen. Number 1 printed over the years. Every time they reboot a series, it starts at issue number 1. The people who were polite about it, I didn't mind. The people who thought we were trying to rip them off and that their books were priceless just did my head in. Story 7. Worked at a traditional game store. Had plenty of sketchy white trash people coming in with their kids' old Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic cards thinking they're extremely valuable. Usually it was just a mismatched starter set from the early 2000s. I'm not sure what started the idea that old trading cards would be ridiculously valuable. But no, I won't give you Met money for your Dark Magician. The level of disappointment. and oftentimes outright anger on their part, was difficult to deal with. I began just telling trashy-looking people, who weren't store regulars, that we didn't purchase cards. Did once have a guy bring in a collection that had a gnarly-looking Black Lotus. Gave him a good deal for it. Story 8. Not a pawn shop worker, but this is still kind of a cool story, or at least I think. Either way, both the shop owner and I were happy with the events that went down. I used to frequent yard sales, buy vintage items, and then take them to the antiques shop and make a little money on the side. One day, I found this little glass figurine at a yard sale for $25. When I flipped the item over and saw the red Occupy Japan logo, I got extremely excited and bought it on the spot. I took it over to the shop and sold it for $45. The shop owner wouldn't go any higher, but hey, I made $44.75 of a quick purchase, so I wasn't too worried. The figure was actually worth about $125. Either way, I made money, and that figure is still sitting in his shop for sale at $125. Story 9. Yay, I can answer this. I worked in a pawn shop in the Midwest for a year and a half. We had a very large woman bring in this bizarre-looking machine. She sets it on the counter and says, I want $500 for it. We're just staring at the machine and then looking at her, and finally the pawnbroker goes, what is it? Homemade breast pump. Yeah, this woman made her own breast pump and thought she would get $500 for it. So weird and gross. So many people try to bring in their tattoo guns equipment. I don't know if other pawn shops take stuff like this, but any in my area is a hard pass due to bodily fluid. Gross. And some of these people get pissed when you tell them no, screaming about how they spent $6,000 on this, and how can we not take it? We had this guy who would dig through garbage cans and try to bring us stuff to sell. Not uncommon, but it was very obvious that this crap was straight up from a dumpster, and he dug it out like 10 minutes before he walked in the store. One time we had to kick him out because he was losing his mind over the fact we wouldn't give him $15 for a desk lamp that had a broken bendy neck, despite the fact the pawnbroker pulled up the exact lamp on Target's website selling for $10, not broken. This guy just did not get it and was calling us all sheets. One of my favorites is the lady who called asking if we take books. We told her we'll consider collector item books, but before we could explain, she got all excited and hung up saying that's exactly what she had. Now when I say collector's items, I mean like first editions or one of those special edition movie books or whatever. This lady proceeds to come and ask for help carrying in her 10, yes that's right, 10 totes of collector books. These collector books, 10-cent romance novels that you can buy in bulk from any thrift store. The conversation was the following. Pawnbroker, ma'am, these are not collector's items. We can't give you anything for them. Lady, what do you mean? They are collector's items. They are all from the same publisher and everything. Pawnbroker, yeah, that's not what makes them collector's items. I'm sorry, we will not take these items. You could consider donating them to a thrift store. Lady, are you kidding me? Do you know how many years I've spent cherishing these? They are collector's items. I am collector and I collected these. Pawnbroker, I'm sorry, ma'am. Lady, I will not be leaving this store until I get at least $300 for my collection. We ended up having to call the police because she sat in the parking lot for 5 hours ranting and raving about us and how we're a scam. The last straw for my boss is when she opened the door and screamed at the top of her lungs like a 5-year-old and then slammed the door. Side note, my husband was the manager of said pawn shop and that's how we met. He loves to tell people that he got his wife at the same place he got his nice watch and TV. What an idiot. Story 10. A guy literally brought in an RPG. He was doing yard work for this old lady whose husband had passed. She gave it to him for doing some yard work, not realizing it was live and active. The guy was career military, and after the bomb squad came and disabled it, they went to her house and found a trove of similarly very illegal military-grade weapons. Story 11. I'm a pawnbroker. Somebody brought in their dead grandmother's gold tooth, plucked from her ashes, with the tooth still in it. We told her that the tooth had to be separated from the gold for us to weigh it. They desecrated their loved one's remains for less than $2. Story 12. Not a pawn shop, but GameStop. Dude rolled in with hundreds of bootleg games and a bunch of modded consoles. He couldn't fathom why I wouldn't take them. Story 13. I don't work in a pawn shop, but I bought my first guitar in one. The big defense contractor in my town laid up over 10,000 people overnight, and the contagion spread. I was looking for my first guitar, and I'm cheap. After checking the music stores, I hit up the pawn shops near work. While I'm looking, this clean-cut guy in his early 30s comes in trying to pawn his guitar, hard case, and effects. Since the shop had a bunch, they offered him crap, evidently, and he left. He was almost crying, saying he got laid off and had to pay some bills. I followed him out and asked him what he wanted for it. He said $100, and I took it. I also gave him my phone number and said he could buy it back when he got back on his feet. I never heard from him. I'm looking at it now, unplayed for months. I hope everything worked out for him. Story 14. I took an old $10 bill into a dealer to see how much it was worth. Don't recall the year, but it was old. The guy says $10, showed me what a bill would have to be like. Spent 30 minutes in his store with him looking at old rare Story 15. A friend's uncle allowed us to shadow him for a day at his pawn shop. A guy walked in with a metal lockbox and said he had something worth billions. He opened the lockbox and there were wood chips in it and the smell of spray paint. He claimed they were leftovers of the cross Jesus was crucified on. He's descended from an ancient and noble line of knights who took oaths to protect the cross. He wanted $2,000 for the lockbox and wood chips. Story 16. A good friend of mine owns a pawn shop in Florida. He once bought a collectible book of state quarters for less than face value of the coins. The customer wasn't bright enough to pop the quarters out of the book and spend them. My buddy's ability to keep a straight face in those situations and make the customer feel like he's getting a deal provides me endless entertainment. Story 17. I worked in a pawn shop for around 7 years or so. We had people trying to pawn fake jewelry all the time. The best part was when they didn't know it was fake. So many women left yelling about that cheap son of a git. I can't even remember half the stupid crap we turned away. There was one thing that we didn't turn away and we should have though. And I love this story. One of the other employees took in what he described as a 24K gold baby bracelet. It was a cock ring, a golden cock ring. This employee was a bit of a know-it-all, and he liked to rub other people's mistakes in their faces. He eventually went on to become manager and then district manager, and you can bet your ass I made sure that every employee under him knew about the baby bracelet. He never lived that down. Story 18. I worked in a jewelry store during the peak of the everybody buys gold and diamonds phase. A group of kids comes in with a ring they found in the parking lot. It's an obvious CZ, which I tell the ringleader, me, as soon as he hands it to me. One of the others demands, a touch annoyed, "How do you know?" In one of those excellent 2 rare moments of perfect reaction, I asked, "Why'd you bring it to me?" "Because you're a jeweler." Oh. Story 19. I may be late to this, but I worked at a pawn shop for about 6 years. I once had a customer walk up to the counter and slide a gold coin to me and say, "I think this is gold." Man, this particular customer reeked of bile and looked like he was high on everything possible. I looked at the coin and slid it back to him and replied, "I think it's a Chuck E. Cheese token. I can tell by the mouse on it." He just said, "Oh," and walked away. That was when I noticed he had crapped his pants to the point it was almost all the way down his pant leg. Story 20. My mom owned the pawn shop in town, and she was a huge New Kids on the Block fan. Unfortunately, eBay decimated our business, and she couldn't afford to see their reunion concert, but her best friend from grade school could. She came in the next morning, wielding what she claimed was a condom. You could be the mom of a new kid. She wanted $1,000 for the stuff, but my mom told her friend to stick it up her vajayjay. Story 21. As a worker in the ghetto, I get grills and gold teeth almost daily, straight from the mouth, and then they get mad when I can't accept it and throw a fit. Every employee wears panic buttons to call the cops immediately if something happens as well. Story 22. I mean, pretty much anything. People came in all the time thinking they could sell or pawn something for almost as much as they wanted to. Our policy was generally to buy for 25% of the new price, and only higher if it was an interesting or high-value item. I always hated jewelry because you just knew the person was going to get pissed at your lowball offer. I paid $10K for this at the jeweler's, and here's the receipt and insurance certificate. Unfortunately, we go by the weight of the gold, which has a fluctuating market price, and the size and quality of the diamond. Going by our rates, I can't offer more than $200, and I can't blame them for feeling insulted. It sucks, because while some people pawn stuff to feed their substances habit, which sucks for them too, many of them do it because their power is going to be shut off, or they can't afford food for their kids, or their husbands. Medical bills are slowly creeping up and crap. I haven't worn this ring for years. Who cares if my grandmother gave it to me? It's got to be worth thousands. Or the 100 other reasons poverty damn blows. But you have to sit there and be stubborn, because you're poor too. Your damn crap-faced boss will deduct anything overpaid from your check. Pawn shops, cool stories, but it crushes your soul. Story 23. Had a guy try selling me a gun. Before I could even nope him out of there. Shop is in NJ, we do not buy guns. He began to point the gun around at people all over the store, pulling the trigger. That guy was a special kind of guy. Fortunately, the gun wasn't loaded, but still. Story 24, pawn shop manager here. Been in the pawn business for about 7 years. I've seen just about everything, but I have this one customer who takes the cake. Guy comes in to pick up his pressure washer that he has already pawned several times. Signs that he has redeemed his item after checking it out and saying, "That's the one, have a great day." He then proceeds to walk out to his car with it, and then promptly storms back into the store with it, proclaiming it isn't his. I calmly try to figure out what the problem is as he's going ballistic. Turns out the serial number was put in our system incorrectly, so I could not prove it was his. I went ahead and informed him a mistake was made on our side and I would replace it with a new one from Home Depot. Apparently that was not okay. He then called me a git several times over, as well as he claimed his grandfather gave it to him at birth, and he had it over 10 years before he was born. He supposedly found it on the internet for over $100. I had to be the bad guy and tell him the coin wasn't even minted until after 2000. $1,000, and it was still only valued at $1 in the current condition it was in. I also have this lady customer who comes in with jewelry and wants close to retail price. I struggle with her every time she comes in. One time I offered her $15 for a piece she had, and she told me, "Well, you're just going to turn around and sell it for over 30." I replied, "That's how it works, otherwise I wouldn't be in business." Story 25. I work at a used bookstore and had a customer come in with very good condition DVDs, books, and CDs. Our old way of buying things used to be that we would judge every single object that came in based on condition and determine the price from there, usually around $1 if the book was in good condition. However, we now had a scanning system where we would scan a barcode and a price would be generated based on prices of it online, regardless of condition. Back to the customer. She's a scrawny old lady and looks pretty much like your stereotypical witch, but with a tank top and shorts. She comes into our store often and usually sells a few carts full of books and DVDs. With our old buyback system, her total would usually come out to around $70, a higher amount than most buybacks, and would sometimes throw a small fit if she didn't get enough. Now she comes in after we implement our new buyback system. She sells the usual cartfuls of books and DVDs in really good condition, but now her total came to around $17, and she flipped her crap. She asked, "Why do you have to use this piece of crap buyback system?" Started calling us random slurs and insults. She also knocks her books down and calls us racist. "Just because I'm white, you gotta be racist against me. Why do I have this treatment?" She demanded to talk to the manager, and he came. He told her that's just how it is now. You don't have to sell to us if you're not satisfied. He mentioned that the company had to change the system because we weren't buying books and stuff at an accurate price. Lady didn't want to take it and tried to shame us by telling everyone around her in the mall that we were racist against her and that she'll call the cops. She called the cops on us. But when they came, she instead got arrested for public disturbance and was subsequently banned from our store for some time. Story 26. I'm sure this will stay buried, but we combat a lot of people coming in with stupidly high asking prices by keeping an equivalent item in stock at a reasonable price. For example, the 1780 Austria silver thaler has Maria Theresa, if original, goes for a lot of money, but almost all of them are reproductions. The original dies were never destroyed and were used to make the reproductions. Therefore, they look exactly like the originals. One day we had a father and son come in super excited. They finally hit the limit. They showed me their Austria thaler. I offered them a little bit shy of the silver content, which was $20 at the time, and the father got super pissed. He claimed we were trying to rip him off. That's understandable, I thought, because it was almost identical to the expensive version. So I tried to explain to him that there's hundreds of thousands of reproductions. He still didn't get it. His son did. So now his son and I tried to get him to come around, and he wouldn't. That's when I went to the back room, pulled out a bucket with about 15 of the same type of thaler that he brought in, and told him if he thought they were worth thousands of dollars, I'd sell mine to him for $22 each. He never flinched and said, "I'm not here to buy these, I'm here to sell mine." At that point, I just said, "We aren't buying those thalers anymore. Have a nice day." Story 27. I'm the local, I'll buy your crap. I don't sell stuff. Doing it since I was 13. Everyone tells me that I should just open up a pawn shop. About once a month, and especially since Pokemon Go has become popular, I have someone contact me about buying an ultra-rare Pokemon card worth like $2,000. No matter what, I bring the cash, and they show me the card, which is always a non-first edition Shadow Charizard in poor condition. Then I have to spend the next 45 minutes explaining to them why I won't buy their card, and why it isn't worth $2,000. Also, I am extremely tired of explaining PSA grades to people. Another is the damn first appearance of Superman. What pisses me off the most is that it's a game of are you more stupid than I am from people who are trying to sell off their 1970s reprint of Action Comics. Number 1, also known as the first half of Superman, I've already discovered it's a reprint. Those people just want to see if I would. I can generally tell if something is stolen in the first 20 seconds of the conversation, but probably 100 by $20 just to see if they were reported stolen by the police to return them. As for dummies, I'm just ignorant. Last year, I had someone try very hard to sell me a very old antique statue of Japanese sumo. He said he had it appraised to be worth $30,000. To be fair, it was very cool. It looked familiar. I peel away some stuff on the bottom and I see a date that is hard to read. I look it up and realize I'm looking at a child's well-made pottery project depicting Honda from Street Fighter. I legitimately wanted it for the story at this point. I offered the guy $20 for it, which he declined because he knew what he had. Story 28. Pawn shops are not like that TV show. People don't bring in valuable antiques to be appraised. I would guess the most likely answer for real pawn shops is wedding rings that end up being fake. Story 29. When I worked at Guitar Center, we would have people come in to sell us used gear all the time, which was cool. Usually they didn't expect too much for it, unless it was actually something good or rare or vintage. but people would hear that vintage guitars are worth good money and think, I bet that Squire I got in 1997 that is all crusty old is worth something, and get mad when we would offer them $35 for it and sell for $70 because it was gross, and somebody could buy a brand new one for $100 or $120 depending on if it was a sale. My favorite was the one guy who came in with 2 garbage guitars. I think one of them might have been a bass that were missing strings and nuts and S. They weren't worth much even in good condition, but in the shape that they were in, it would cost more to get our in-house technician to repair them than he would get them. Because we weren't in the business of buying broken instruments, we told him that if he wanted to sell them to us, he would have to have them repaired first. And I was completely upfront with him that the cost of the repairs would be more than we would pay him for the guitars. He decided to do it anyway and gave me a big stink about how he drove a half hour to come here to do this. It took an hour and a half out of his day, and how he felt like he should be compensated. When I called him the next day to tell him that the repairs were done and that we would be able to get him his money for the sale, he yelled at me over the phone for interrupting his golf game. Damn this guy. Story 30. I don't work at the pawn shop, but my friend does. People bring in dumb crap all the time to get a few dollars for substances. It starts from a candies box stolen from a shop next to the pawn shop to plungers, rubber ducks, electronics, real and fake jewelry they thought was real, and England cars. Story 31. Babbage's aka GameStop worker in the early 2000s. This was a case of the company being dumb. GameStop either owned or acquired Funkoland and a couple other game store brands at the time. Babbage's being one. We had a local guy that would drive about an hour each way and buy out every single copy of certain NES games and then bring them to our store. He would do the same in reverse as well. The company would then dutifully redistribute the games to equalize inventory between the stores. All told, he made close to $50K before they figured it out and disallowed transactions of 10 games or more in one visit. Last I heard, this same guy was churning in some manufactured spending on gift cards, credit cards, etc. to the tune of 60-70K a year. Dude knows how to hustle. Story 32. Obligatory, not a pawn shop, but my father was a coin dealer, gold and silver broker, and every now and then I would work for him to make extra cash. Jewelry. Most people assume because they paid a lot of money for jewelry that it must be worth a lot intrinsic. Unfortunately, most jewelry has an intrinsic value much less than what you paid for it, especially if you bought it in a high-end jewelry store. I realize that may not necessarily be dumb, but a lot of people sell jewelry that they paid $5,000 for and for something. And 2 years later, they think it's worth $10,000 coins. Many people assume because a coin is old that it must be worth a lot of money. Also, it's really amazing how many people think they have rare coins. A really common one was, a lot of people claim to have a 1943 copper penny, even after having it explained that they are incredibly rare and basically nobody has one. I understand that a lot of people have a 1943 penny and don't understand that it's not the copper one. But a lot of people will actually say, no, I understand that, but I actually have one of the copper ones. And of course they never do. I also realize that having a coin that you think is worth a lot of money is not dumb necessarily. But the dumb part comes in when you explain to the person, no, a 1945 quarter that he found in your pocket is not worth $500 or $1,000, and then they still try to argue with you. Story 33. Not a pawn shop worker, but I was in one with a friend of mine when a man who looked to have enjoyed more than just a few crack rocks in his day came inside with a sink. A sink that he apparently just ripped out of a hotel or kitchen of an abandoned house or something. And I do mean ripped out. No idea what it It was pretty hilar, you just had to be there. Story 34. I just have to say, I've only tried to sell something to a pawn shop once. Some kind of CB radio setup and related components, and they offered me $20. When I told them that wasn't enough, they laughed at me and said I wouldn't get a better offer anywhere else. I ended up selling it on Craigslist for $300.
Hello? Going good. I just saw the load information. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking after that, I'm thinking of going over to a Freightliner and seeing about getting that kit. Because I call it Freightliner, or it was one of the Freightliners, and they said it'd be roughly $30 for the kit for the bug heater, give or take $30. So that's pretty damn cheap. So yeah, if they have it in stock, I'm going to call the location. If they have it in stock, then I'll go grab it and have you pay for it. And I've literally got all the parts except for the wrench, and I just have to make sure they have that wrench, the socket piece, so I can pull the glow plug out. Once I have everything, basically it should take me no more than maybe an hour or so to freaking change to fix the dang thing. Anyways, but yeah, I'm heading that way now. I got the biscuit. I didn't realize I had to get the scale ticket basically before loading and after, but I got the scale ticket for delivering and then after delivering, because I had to basically get an empty weight after delivering. Yeah, I got them both on an email. I actually screenshot, take screenshots of them. I can send you those, no problem. I don't know why they're wanting that, but whatever. I mean, the farmer got it, so he has it. The farmer, the guy that was receiving the hay, it's got the picture of it afterwards because I texted it to him, and then he's got a copy of the physical one before I got there, because I wouldn't scaled it before I got there. I can get to that. That's not a problem. Let's see. Don't need to. Done. Done. Look at your text message. There should be an empty way and a loaded way. So double check. Make sure that it's empty and loaded, and it's both at the same fuel station. That should be both empty and loaded. At least it should be. Oh, did I? Let's go look again. Maybe I goofed it somehow. Because I could have sworn I took a screenshot of before and after. Let's see. No, I'm going to go with my pictures real quick and look at this. Go with my pictures. Yeah, you're right. I think I did goof and you sent me the same picture twice. Oh, well, let's do this one then. Let's see if that one's different. That one should be different. Yeah, I just sent it. Check it again. Yeah, both at the same fuel station. Like I said, I didn't see the paperwork where it said that I have to get an empty weight and loaded weight. I didn't see that part. I just overlooked it because I overlooked it. Just got loaded and started hauling butt. All right, no problem. Bye. Bye.
I literally just had a lady walk out on me angry that I couldn't offer any money on her small wooden spice rack. It even had half-empty spices still on it. A few months ago, an old man came in with a trash bag full of used bonds, complete with WE and dripping with lawn water. Said he's selling all his son's stuff. He was such a sweet old dude, I felt bad and told him to break it all up in the dumpster outside and not write about it. I get a ton of old coins that people bring in thinking they're worth a bunch of money. And I usually have even older stuff in my change drawer that I can show them. Most people laugh about it. Also, I have seen quite a few gently used sex toys in my time as well. Story 36. Worked at a comic book, memorabilia store, and people have really messed up notions of value. Just because it is old doesn't mean it is valuable. Just because it is rare doesn't mean there is a market for it. The worst was when people would come in with things that were signed with no authentication and demand outrageous prices. Some old lady and her obviously tweaker granddaughter brought in a comic they claimed was signed by Stan Lee and wanted $1,000 for it. We laughed them out of the shop. Also, a picture of you with William Shatner that he signed has no value to anyone but you. Story 37. I went to college in a farm town in northern Colorado. I had a red leather jacket that I bought in high school that I wanted to sell in one of the pawn shops out there. I never wore it and would rather have cash than the jacket. I didn't want money for substances, just money because I was a broke college student. They refused to buy it because it was red and that color was somehow gang related. I had no idea that Farmtown had any gang problems, but whatever. Story 38. I'm not a pawn shop owner, but when I was 10 or 11, I caught a black widow spider and excitedly brought it to the pawn shop in town inside a Mountain Dew bottle, ready to claim my bounty. They weren't interested. Pet shop wouldn't take it either. I made a cardboard sign and stood on the side of the road, but I never found a buyer. Story 39. I worked at Clothes Mentor, like GameStop, but for high-end women's clothing and accessories. Sellers were almost always women in their late 20s to early 40s. Two younger guys, prob late teens, come in one day with a Louis Vuitton bag. I could tell from the minute they walked in that it was fake, but I humored them. Bro 1 looks at Bro 2, smiles, and smugly puts the bag on the counter and asks how much he can get for it. I politely tell Bro 1 we can't take it because it's not authentic. He knows the jig is up, but tries to play cool and says, "What are you talking about? This is real." I disagreed and began listing off the various specific reasons why it wasn't real. I asked him where he got it. He says, "I bought it for $250 at Macy's at the mall over there." Not so much. The mall over there has a Macy's, but that Macy's has never, ever carried LV. Also, the authentic version of the bag he brought in retailed for over $800 at the time, 6 years ago. Story 40. Kind of the opposite, but in the mid-'80s I worked for a guy that ran food trailers that went to different festivals, etc. It was a blast of a summer job. But anyway, kids would dig around the house to find money to blow at the arcades, and for food, rides, etc. Many of these kids would get into the coin collection, seeing a 10 or 20, but not realizing they were silver certificates, silver quarters daily, Indian head pennies, even had a guy pay for his drink with a roll of buffalo nickels. Story 41. My uncle works for one. He manages the firearms counter at the shop. From what I understand, it's pretty large. Has been trying to get me to visit him for years, but I've never checked the place out. He was telling me about a crazy one he got a few years ago. The guy brought in a Vietnam-era collapsible tube-style rocket launcher with live ammunition. Obviously, my uncle had to report it. He has to report all weapons he takes in with the ATF with the state's laws. This was no exception. The police promptly showed up to confiscate it. If I remember right, guy served and brought it home as a souvenir and decided to sell it for a few bucks. Story 42. I used to work at a pawn shop in Los Angeles. One time this guy brought in $102 bills, non-consecutive, and wanted a loan of $120. My boss told me to do the loan, so I followed instruction and gave the guy $120. The guy then managed to not come back for the bills, so we made an $80 profit from sheer stupidity. Story 43. A month ago, a man stole a lawnmower from the front of our store. Well, just 2 days ago, he returned to the shop with the exact same lawnmower, claiming it was his. He tried to sell it to us. Not only did the serial number on that mower match the one we had, but it still had our price tag on it. Story 44. Worked at an auction house rather than a pawn shop, but it's the same principle. I once had to deal with a woman who brought in a badly damaged, chipped dog child tutor, simple pine bookcase. She informed me that she had paid $200 for the bookcase 10 years ago, and that due to its appreciating value, she expected to receive at least $1,000 for it now. She was very put out when I suggested the most she was going to get was $20, and only if someone wanted it for their shed. Story 45. I never expected to strike it rich, but last summer I found a cool-looking guitar that my hoarder neighbor's family threw away after she died. A few weeks later, I took it to a paint shop since the owner was really into the guitars and would buy old guitars for a decent price, and I wanted to take my sister out to dinner with him for her birthday. It turns out that literal piece of garbage was a model that was pretty popular with folk singers in the 60s. I ended up $200 richer, so I took my sister for a nice meal and bought myself some tennis set squirts. Story 46. 10 Irish ex been running a pawn shop. Fake Rolex watches, family heirlooms, parking lot buys that turned out to be fake for the normal. Weirdest thing I'd loaned on would be dentures. I'd give the guy 10, 20. I was asked why I took them, and my response was always the same. If that ducker wants to eat solid food again, he'll come get them. He always came in repeat. Story 47. I have never worked at a pawn shop. I was once in a bad place, though, and had an interview with one. During the interview, a guy came in with a 12V2X4, like a big piece of wood. Legitimately tried getting $20 for it. He couldn't get all the way through the door, and the guy interviewing me, we were standing behind the counter, said, never worked in a pawn shop. Story 48. Pawn shop / trading post in New Jersey and could tell you hundreds of stories related to this. But the dumbest thing I've had someone bring in was a used lifelike sex doll. It was something that you pay somewhere around $3,000 to $5,000 for. He was just completely flabbergasted that we would not buy it. Story 49. 1. The previous owner of our shop was burgled and called us to tell us to look out for a load of gold sovereign coins with very distinctive dates. 30 minutes later, the substances dumped. Retards came in to try to sell them. Now in prison. 2. An iron bar to rob me of the money in the till with. I had a sword behind the counter. Just been sentenced, but only to home detention. Go figure. Story 50. My fiance works at a small-time retro gaming store. He tells me stories all the time about getting people in and wanting to sell their copies of Madden 2006 for $30 because they saw it on eBay for that much. Probably once or twice a week she'll get a really cool item, but mostly it's trash that people dump off for their substances in it. Story 51. Musical instruments. Sorry, your student flute from 1970 is tarnished and dented. Not to mention that the cost of replacing the pads and corks will be more than buying a brand new student flute. Keep it for the memories. They're worth more than your crappy flute. Story 52. They had a guy bring in a portable toilet to sell. I watched him get off the bus in front of my shop and walk with it, and looked at my coworker like, check this dumbass out. Then he headed for the door, and I ran out to tell him we don't deal in fecal matter. Also, silver was a giant pain in my ass that people thought they were going to get a ton of money for their 3 grams. Story 53. My parents would used to watch the Chinese Antique Roadshow, where people that deemed themselves as experts would bring in supposedly rare antique porcelain. The expert would give a little presentation about the porcelain, and then, if it was deemed fake by 3 actual experts, the host would smash it with a gold hammer. It was funny to see some smashed dreams. Story 54. Managed a pawn shop in Michigan that was not American jewelry alone, and these were the highlights. Someone brought in brass paper clips trying to convince me they were gold. What was clearly the top of the TV tray, trying to be passed off as an antique painting, and my personal favorite, teeth, because they were around a gold too. Story 55. I've been working at a pawn shop for about 9 years, so there are countless ones. But a favorite was a girl brought me a solid gold 24K ring to sell, and it was a plastic lotto ring from a board game. Tons of others, but that one is one of the best ones that wasn't a sad story. Story 56. Can't verify if this is true or not, but I remember my grandpa recently talking about some guys who robbed a house and decided to pawn off the spoils. The only problem was that the stuff they stole was actually from the pawn shop owner's house, who then called the cops on them. Story 57. Then there are the Git pawn shop employees, or smart depending your perspective. I regularly see used Craft Harbor freight tools marked up higher than new. Just last week I saw a 129.99 central pneumatic air compressor they were trying to sell at $200. Story 58. I worked at a GameStop in college and someone asked if we traded for cash. I told him yes, and he brought out a calculator, an NES light gun without a cable, and a rock, and asked what he could get for them. Tweakers, man. Story 59. I run a video game store, and several people weekly bring armloads of old Madden, NBA, and other sports games thinking they're going to get all kinds of cash. They're very upset when I give them $5 out of pity. Story 60. Not me personally, but when I was 15, there was a kid in my class who claimed he was going to be rich because he was going to pawn his mom's stolen credit card. Story 61. I used to work at an LGS, primarily magic. If I had a penny for every time a kid had me look through his 3-inch binder of recently rotated standard commons, I could play vintage. Pawn shop owners. What was the most illegal thing a customer had brought to your shop? Story 1. Employee not owner. A guy brought in a stack of like 15 laptops that all said property of City Public School right on the top of each one. He then threatened to shoot me when I told him to get out. Yes, I am aware that schools, businesses, etc. sometimes sell off old laptops, which is why I don't flat out call the cops whenever somebody brings in a suspected stolen item. There's always the chance that no matter how obviously stolen it is, the person owns it legit. However, I'm not going to risk my job or my conscience by taking in an item if it has a label on it claiming it's somebody else's property. Also, how am I supposed to sell a laptop that says property of City Public Schools on it? Pawn shops have a bad enough rap as it is. Story 2. A guy literally brought in an RPG. He was doing yard work for this old lady whose husband had passed. She gave it to him for doing some yard work, not realizing it was live and active. The guy was career military, and after the bomb squad came and disabled it, they went to her house and found a trove of similarly very illegal military-grade weapons. Story 3. Not an owner, but I got a call from a pawn shop saying that one of my admin employees tried to sell her work computer. It has my company's logo and contact info right on it, plain as day. How stupid can some people be? Story 4. So I'm not an owner, and I wouldn't call this illegal per se, but I feel like I have to share this. A friend of mine owns a pawn shop, and one day a dude walks in with a cardboard box filled to the top with his own crap. He claims that it's magic, and my friend cuts him off right there and kicks him out. As he's walking out, he drops the box on accident, gets all of his crap on the floor, sees the mess he's made, stares at the horrid pile of crap for a couple of seconds, runs out of the shop. My friend never got his name, never saw him. The smell would proceed to linger in the shop for a good month after it was cleaned up. Story 5. A buddy of mine worked at a pawn shop for a few years. He had a guy try to sell them a police walkie-talkie, like straight stolen from a car, but with the battery taken out. They told him to get out and called the cops. I believe they picked the guy up a few hours later. Story 6. Just a worker here, but we had a couple come in to pawn their back-a-score over the weekend. Happens a lot. And brought their bill of sale. They wanted a simple $1K loan, which wasn't bad considering how much it was worth. No more than 30 minutes later, cops are there with the owner. Apparently, they worked for him and went and pawned all of his industrial equipment. Story 7. Worked at a gun shop, and a shady-looking guy brought in a few pairs of night vision goggles, like high-end military-grade PVS. 14 night vision goggles. Asked him why he was selling them. Oh, I just don't need them. Cool, man. Do you mind if I call the company real quick and run the numbers? Sometimes this stuff is stolen property. And as soon as I said that, he jumped across the counter, grabbed the googles, and bolted for the door. Story 8. A friend of mine owns a rather unique store, not a pawn shop, but he sells a lot of authentic medieval weaponry. Armor, clothing, and similar. While I was there, a young couple decided his shop was the place to sell a few old SS daggers, belts, flags, and other Nazi memorabilia. Except for one thing. We are in Germany. Here the state kind of frowns upon owning or selling. They could have donated it to any museum and would have had no issue with the law whatsoever. I mean, it was not their fault they found it, right? But they figured that if Grandpa was a Nazi, he could at least help with the funds for the renovations, and decided cash was better than being named to the museum. My friend was mostly insulted by the idea that just because he owns a medieval store and sells historic weapons, he must know a Nazi collector that would pay cash. But that was the end of it. He took from history buffs, or at least not one happy little German Nazi, with a new happy stabby toy. Story 9. This just reminded me of my friend who pawned the DSLR camera I let him borrow for a school project. I asked for it back a good amount of times, and not once did he tell me what he did. I had to hear it from someone else, and then I gave it to him. Story 10. An MP40. Not actually me, but my significant other. He manages a store owned by a national chain, brought in on pawn, and as with all neat things, he was just waiting for the loan to drop. After 30 days of non-payment, item goes out for sale. At this point, he could purchase it. Now, I'm not a huge gun historian, but I know the era and style and it has. That gun is super rare. It's not full auto. When a gun is taken in on loan, the gun is run, not the person. So our state's Bureau of Investigation was notified of its existence. Not only is a federal stamp for automatic weapon expensive AF, it's also difficult to obtain, so he was no longer going to purchase it. And it's a good thing, because shortly after the gun was seized by ATF, which is when we found out the actual worth, $10,000, $20,000. Original owner brought it back as a war trophy. Son is the one who got a loan for like $200, but it was never registered, so it was contraband. Story 11. I had this car that had a little sliding door on the side, meant to hold pics. I put weed in there as a joke. Completely forgot about it as I was selling it. They were chill. Story 12. Not a pawn shop owner, but was in the pawn shop when this happened. Someone brought in a wheelchair with the tag from the local hospital on the back. Yeah, property somewhere hospital. The pawn shop owner told them to leave it and get out. They did, and he called the non-emergency line. The police came and picked it up and took it back to the hospital, where that's what they said they were doing. Story 13. In a similar vein, my friend found some weed in the oven he bought from a used appliance store. The shop called him to ask about the oven. Luckily, he didn't give out his address. Story 14. Literally had a customer come in and say, "Hi, I've just stolen this phone off my sister. How much will you give me for it?" Also had a customer bring in 5 MacBooks at the same time with a certain logo on it, which gave me the impression they were stolen. Told him to leave them with me for testing. Called the police. Had another customer bring in a gun and a crossbow. That was weird. I'm in the UK. This is not a normal thing. Story 15. You always got to look out for the people bringing in a crap ton of brand spanking new tools and electronics. Over time, you learn to read people based on their appearance, behavior, and personal information. An experienced pawnbroker can almost always immediately sleuth out whether they're stolen or not. In these cases, they usually are. I've never had someone intentionally bring in illicit items, but it's important to check pockets and compartments on cases and similar things. It's not unheard of for some eclectic customer to forget about a little baggie of weed being stashed. One guy paid off his loan with cash, and there was a thin layer of white resin coating. First time I'd seen that. Not illegal, toward the beginning of the coronavirus. Some wisecrack nutcase did try to sell us disinfectant. Funny, but also boring. Story 16. Not a pawn shop employee or owner, but I bought an iPod Classic from a pawn shop, and it had some of Hitler's speeches and Nazi music on it. I don't know if that's illegal to have Hitler's speeches, but it's certainly very controversial, especially since I bought it in Germany, in a region that was always a point of conflict between France and Germany. I don't know if the iPod's contents were specifically illegal. However, I would imagine that it specifically illegal. However, I would imagine that it
I didn't know I was around here, Stephanie. Stuck in this orientation, not a good idea. 'Cause I can't read the comments.
Showed off and that I didn't a good job while I was in the role. Is there any feedback on that?
This decision isn't in any way based upon your performance.
Okay.
This is just part of the overall company's product strategy.
Okay.
That was very triggering. The annoying thing, this says POV you're 28 and moved for a job that fired you 3 months later. So she like uprooted her whole life for this job. And they couldn't even fire her honestly and not reading from script. They couldn't even have an honest conversation that wasn't slipped on their desk by HR and PR. They had to read right from a piece of paper, which means they're probably doing it to a lot of other people. That's the shit thing for me. That's the shit thing. The comment that it's not working. It came in no computer. What the fuck's going on? New accent unlocked. What is happening? Why isn't anything happening? It's like they have this robotic script, like the human dude talk to a human, not reading off a script. He was literally reading off a page on his computer. That's what's so annoying about it. It's like, wow, okay, people are this disposable to you that you like don't even have like an honest conversation thanking the person for moving for your job that you apparently had budget for 3 months ago and now you don't. This is the thing. We are disposable to these people. We are disposable. That's why you should quit your job and start a really good YouTube channel. don't do that. It worked out for me, but it was hard. It's still hard. The worst is getting laid off and then seeing your role reposted a couple months later. Yeah, that's the best, eh? Yeah, that's it. It's like, no, it's not you. It's not you. It's just, yeah, we're just firing everybody. Then why did I see my job post on Indeed 5 minutes ago? I mean, the good news is you were fired, so you get severance. Hopefully, if you weren't a contractor, you also get unemployment. So, employment EI. So, it's good. Honestly, in my opinion, it's almost better if they fire you because then you get the money. This is the fucked up thing is like companies will literally force you to quit so they don't have to pay severance. Just be incompetent until they fire you. These are pro tips with Charlotte O'Brien.
I've been a personal assistant to for the past 2 years, who I literally consider a friend, fired me last week due to poor performance at Grammys. So I'm going to come on here, I don't care if I get sued, and I'm going to ask all of you guys if you think this competition's poor performance. First thing that happens, we get to the Grammys, we get out of the escalator, the singer, Robert Anna, realizes that she did not bring her shoes she left at the hotel. So obviously that's a big problem, you can't walk the red carpet barefoot. But
how do you forget your shoes?
It's like she likes my shoes the best and wants to wear them. Now normally I would reluctantly give it to her, however I just find the news, but there was like torrential rain and flooding in LA this week.
There was.
I literally would have been on asphalt under like 2 inches of rain in my bare feet for like 30 minutes while she walked the red carpet. And I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, no. I ended up finding someone else to drop shoes from, but I just didn't. The second thing, and this one is even more out of pocket, Anna brought her 2 dogs to the Grammys. And for some reason, she thought they were going to be able to go inside. These dogs are technically registered as emotional support animals. However, Anna literally bragged to her friends all the time that she did this illegally and that they're not actually trained, which is true. They're really badly behaved. Security refused to let the dog inside, which, like I said, makes sense. I was forced to stand outside with the dogs for the entire duration of the Grammys. Keep in mind, this is like the one event I look forward to all year. I was all glammed up, and it was pouring rain outside.
Oh my god.
The reason she brought the dogs in the first place is because she wanted to have emotional support if she lost the Grammy.
Oh, she did.
I just decided after 45 minutes, like, I was freezing cold, the dogs were freezing cold. I was like, I think the best solution is to bring these dogs home, and she can just get that comfort from them later when she goes back to her house. She doesn't need it right away at the Grammys. You can tell last night that Anna wasn't happy that I brought the dogs home, but never in my life did I think she'd actually go as far as to fire me. Like, this is a woman I consider one of my closest friends at this point. And for her to fire me through an email from her manager, not even from herself, is just so low. I'll probably regret venting all this to TikTok and delete it later, but I just need someone to listen.
No, you vent, baby girl. You vent. This woman did not care if you had to stand outside in torrential downpour in like literally a monsoon. Okay? She did not care. She's not your friend. Okay? She's your boss. She pays you money. Is it worth the money though? Doesn't seem like you missed out on that great of an opportunity. Like, I'm just saying. I also, like, how the fuck do you forget your shoes? Like, you like walked out of the hotel room barefoot. There was no like stylist there to like bring, it's not, like, I don't know if you're the stylist. You said that you're the assistant, right? Yeah, you're an assistant. You're a personal assistant. Failed to understand how someone walked around in like a red carpet, full-on outfit and didn't have their shoes. That's kind of stupid. I feel like a personal assistant should have noticed she wasn't wearing shoes. She should have noticed she wasn't wearing shoes. Should have checked about the dogs first or planned a dog walker. I mean, you know, it's actually kind of a thing for celebrities to bring dogs places. Like, I was just at an event in Banff and like Tom Green, Canadian comic legend Tom Green, walks into the room that I'm drinking in, but he's dressed like a cowboy and has like a full-on dog with him at the award show. And I'm like, honestly, I made really good friends with his dog and he automatically liked me by extension. But like, yeah, he's Tom Green. He can bring his dog. Duh. Imagine getting to that point where you're like so iconic that you're allowed to bring your dog places. It's so weird. Being an assistant at that level, in my opinion, the job is to assist the artist in every way possible and problem solve. I mean, yes, and it just like sometimes I feel like this is a little bit of an unreasonable request. I don't know. I would feel bad about making someone walk around barefoot for that kind of thing, like in the pouring rain and make them stand outside like I don't know. Lord help me. I hope I never get to the point where I literally think that it's okay to ask someone to be barefoot because I forgot my shoes in pouring rain. All right, there's actually a lot of people who are criticizing her for not giving her the shoes, okay? I personally wouldn't even ask that. I wouldn't have forgotten my shoes in the first place. Seriously. Me personally, I wouldn't ask this of a personal assistant. Like, I get, yes, maybe she could have given her the shoes, but like, that's also a big ask, I feel. That's like, that, you know.
Big ask.
Who do you think was in the wrong? Did she deserve to get fired? I don't know. I wouldn't be put in that position in the first place. It seems a little bit extra to me. Just a little.
The story of how I got in trouble for time theft.
Oh, cool glasses.
This was the first time I was a manager. It was a college job. I got this job because of my experience of being an RA in dorms. The training for this job was this summer going into my senior year of college. At that time, I was studying abroad in Thailand. Got excused from this training. I just figured very naively that when I, got back from Thailand and started the senior year and started my job, that I would just be CC'd into the training materials, or that it would be made up. Being a 21-year-old first-generation college student at this time with parents that were blue-collar workers, I had no idea how crazy corporate America really could get. So fast forward to a few months into the job, I still hadn't really gotten training at that point. I was just doing the job because I understood residence halls really well and I had the experience. Fast forward a few months in, and all of a sudden I am asked to meet with my boss and her boss without any description of what the meeting is going to be about. I go into the meeting, it's like very early the next day, and we're in a crunchy office. They accused me of stealing money the entire time I had been working up until this point. What was happening was, when I was clocking in, there was always 2 different job codes that I could clock into. But these job codes didn't make any sense. Each job code had this description on it, but it was like an acronym that didn't make any sense, and then just a number next to it. Number didn't make any sense. It was like 1 + 1, 1 + 2. From their point of view, they said I was intentionally clocking into a job code that paid more sporadically throughout the month, and then just getting paid extra. I asked what the differences between the 2 job codes were, and they said there was one job code that paid $2 extra an hour in the case that I have to work anywhere between midnight and 8 a.m. I was very confused because I was a manager, so I always had a staff that was working 24/7, so I had never worked from midnight to 8 a.m. at this job. And I even explained that the reason that I didn't ever notice this is because $2 an hour extra after taxes is nothing. I didn't work on a fixed schedule. I set my own hours and things like that, so my pay every 2 weeks was always varied. They were not down to talk about any of it, and I had always been such a goody two-shoes about work in general up to this point, and so I just remember being so scared. I just wanted to groan and go cry and call my mom. I was just so scared that I just wanted out of that room. So they slid over a written warning to me across the table. I signed it. I was just like, whatever. I didn't read the written agreement. And what was so frustrating about it was I was looking at my boss during the meeting, and I knew that this person was approving my time every 2 weeks.
Oh, there's a plot twist.
Because in my mind, it was like I was doing something wrong, then this should have been talked about like immediately. I assured them that if I saw a huge gap in my pay or difference in my pay, I would absolutely bring it up. So I'm just very confused and frustrated, and I didn't really know how to process any of these emotions in a more like professional corporate way at that time. I just submitted to the whole situation because I just didn't want to get even in more trouble or make an ass of myself.
It's actually quite shocking how like corporate jobs don't train you like at all. Not all corporate jobs, but I have like a few friends who have corporate jobs, and like they've been working there for like a few months now, and like nobody's training them. Like, nobody's telling them what to do. And so they're not like doing much. Not accusing her of not doing much. I just think it's like really funny. It's like, so you're paying this person like a crazy amount of money, and you're not like telling them how to do their job so that they can do their job. I mean, let me know if you know anybody who's experienced this, but I feel like this is actually more common than you think.
For months on end, I like didn't talk to anyone about the situation. I just kind of kept it internal, and there was definitely moments where I was like even second guessing myself. And I was like, was I stealing time? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe like this is crazy. Like these two adults like told me I did something wrong. Like I must have done something wrong. My boss and I didn't talk for those entire months after that, so it was like super weird too, because then it almost furthered this like guilt and shame that I had. And I remember like going to one of my peers finally that was like in a different department, but we were still kind of like the same level. And I brought this up to her, and she was like, "Oh, well, you should just schedule another meeting to kind of like hash it out." And I was like, "Wait, but like they started it." I was like, "Why do I have to initiate fixing something that like they started?" Like this is the weird part about corporate America. Sometimes we're just like, I didn't do anything wrong, and now I have to do even like more work to put more energy into this. The whole thing could have been avoided in general. Looking back on that story, it definitely scarred me from being a manager. As I, graduated and went into the tech industry and had more of these like corporate jobs, I remember thinking to myself, really only two different ways that you can progress in corporate America. One, being a more like skilled-based person and going that way, or being like a people manager. I had really sworn off people management from this experience, and so I just felt like my options were always very limited looking into corporate America because of this like trauma I was carrying from this other job that I had when I was much younger. And also looking back on this, it just frustrates me because of what we see a lot happening in corporate America is like the dysfunction of upper management and all these different orgs that don't work well together. Sometimes the brunt of the guilt and the blame and the issue goes down to like the youngest employee. It'll go down to like the most inexperienced,
For sure.
the lowest person on the team.
You didn't know how to do your job. You didn't know what this stuff meant. And I think I believe you when you say that. But the person that really is the person who wasn't